Hello and welcome to the Brave podcast, Doing Travel Differently. I'm recording this podcast episode from ITB Berlin, which is one of the most influential travel trade events in the world. It's absolutely enormous. This is the first time I attended ITB, overwhelmed with the exhibitors, the volume of exhibitors, the volume of delegates, and the fascinating snapshot of where the global tourism industry currently stands, which is sadly yet again in turmoil and disruption. I was only able to attend the first day, unfortunately. I would have really liked to have been there for the Thursday, which is when there was a greater representation in the parallel sessions of the theme of responsible travel, which is obviously my key area of interest. Mainly the topics of discussion were centered around AI and marketing, nonetheless interesting, but perhaps, of less interest for me personally in day one. And the tone of the event was, I don't know whether this is a personal reflection, a personal taste, but having attended World Travel Market last November, I did find that the tone differed somewhat. It felt a little more corporate, more strategic, maybe a little bit more less relaxed, jovial, perhaps, maybe less vibrant. I don't know. Maybe I was just seeing the beginnings of things, and it unveiled over the coming days. But there was certainly a clear sense that the industry is entering a phase of recalibration, and no doubt that is warranted on account of current events. The overarching theme of this year's event is leading tourism into balance. And that idea of balance appeared again and again through the sessions and discussions that I was able to attend in day one. One of the most powerful ideas that surfaced during the opening sessions was the notion that power without balance leads to decline. We've seen tourism growing rapidly over the past decades, but now the industry is maturing, thinking more carefully about resilience. It needs to. Sustainability, technology, and the social impacts of tourism. There was also a strong emphasis on dialogue over destruction and working collaboratively to navigate crises rather than reacting to them. And, observing the events of the last few weeks, that need still exists, very much so. Very much so. There is too much of a reactive stance taken to the response to crisis. And we've seen over the last few decades, that crises are no longer rare events. They're part of the operating system of the tourism environment. It means that resilience must be built into the system itself. Again, that is being elaborated in the current events, showing us just how strategically and geographically important the Middle Eastern region and the Middle Eastern carriers are to the tourism system, and, how disruptive it actually can be if part of that system is shocked. And, again, is highlighting the inadequacies that exist in the crisis management strategies that are in place that are largely being seen as responsive. Professor Heinz-Dieter Quack presented an interesting model that highlighted several of the structural forces shaping tourism today, and these included resilience, digitalization, sustainability, labour shortages, and living space development. And these forces are not independent of one another. They interact and compound each other, and they're reshaping how destinations, operators, and policymakers can think about the future of tourism. Another major theme throughout the day was artificial intelligence. The insights shared by Focusrite were particularly striking. AI is already transforming how travellers search for, discover, and book travel. Increasingly, it's not just humans reading our content, it's machines interpreting it. And that was a particular point of interest for me. It means businesses must ensure their content is legible to machines, not just appealing to human audiences. And this requires a totally different skill set. Visibility within the next generation of AI-powered search and booking tools may soon determine whether a destination, a property, or a travel experience is discovered at all. There was also interesting insight that many users, and particularly millennials, value AI primarily for time savings and the ability to cut through information overload. So while inspiration still matters, it's clarity and accuracy of information that are becoming critical. Another recurring conversation, of course, was around sustainability. The discussion has clearly moved beyond storytelling and marketing claims. Increasingly, the challenge is a data challenge rather than a sustainability challenge. What metrics should we use? How should we ensure transparency? And how do we communicate sustainability in ways that are meaningful to travellers? There's growing momentum around universal sustainability KPIs, particularly focusing upon water, waste, and energy. The idea that sustainability information should become visible at the point of sale, enabling travellers to make more informed choices and decisions. In other words, sustainability must become measurable, comparable, and transparent. A final theme that emerged repeatedly was the tension between innovation and regulation. Technology is moving quickly, tourism demand continues to evolve, but there was a strong message that progress must be guided by wisdom. Advancing without balance, whether economically, socially, or technologically, ultimately risks undermining the very system tourism depends upon. Day one at ITB Berlin left me reflecting on one simple but powerful idea. The future of tourism will not be defined purely by growth. It will be defined by balance. Balance between innovation and regulation, between progress and preservation, between technology and human experience. In short, the industry is being invited to advance, but to advance wisely. And perhaps that is exactly what doing travel differently looks like. So thanks very much for listening to the Brave podcast, Doing Travel Differently.